Hi everyone. Welcome to Wellness Wednesday Live. This week we are talking all about good sleep for good health in line with our Healthy You theme for the month on sleep health, because this is National Sleep Month Awareness Month, and we are excited to be kind of talking about what makes up some good sleep, how does sleep affect our health. I know for me personally, I really didn't give this topic much thought in the ways of health and wellness and how much sleep had an impact on health and wellness outcomes in my life. And so as I learned more about it, I really kind of became very interested in some of the connections that I found in my studies about sleep health and how it does impact our overall health and wellness in the long run. So I'm going to talk to you today just about 8 things that you may or may not have known were potentially impacted by sleep, whether it's good or poor sleep habits. So the very first one that I was very surprised to know about was obesity. Actually, they're finding in studies, especially out of Columbia University, they found through a study that people who slept less than 7 hours a night had associated with that an increased risk of weight gain and obesity, and that went across the board, children and adults, that is because poor sleep habits really affect our hormones. A lot of what happens in the middle of the night when we're sleeping, our hormones kind of get balanced out again after being all up and down all throughout the day as we're dealing with life's pressures and eating and going through life and being active. Our hormones kind of fluctuate throughout the day, and so toward the end of the night they get a little out of line, and when we sleep well they kind of come back into balance. So ideally when you wake up and you're well rested, your hormones are kind of stabilized and back in balance. Well, if you're not getting good sleep, you're not getting those hormones back in balance. So you may be waking up still with a higher level of ghrelin, which is the hormone that stimulates our hunger, or you might be not having enough leptin, which actually works to decrease our appetite. Those are the hormones that make us feel full when we're done eating. So if we're waking up out of a poor night's sleep and those hormones haven't rebalanced, it's really setting us up for a day of poor decisions where food is concerned, because we're not getting those triggers to stimulate our hunger or tell us when we're full. So obesity is one of the big health factors that's impacted by improper sleep. Another one is brain function. Our brain is affected absolutely by poor sleep. It impacts our cognition, our concentration, productivity, performance. All of those can be negatively impacted. Just think about, new moms who are up half the night with their little babies and having to get up multiple times through the night. They're not always 100% the next day after having this disrupted sleep all night. Not that having babies and getting up with them in the middle of the night is a bad thing. We definitely want to have those moments in our family history, but just recognizing that if you're not getting the proper amount of sleep, you may not be having the most undivided attention. That's why, if your kids have a test the next day, you really want them to get that good night's sleep, because sleep has been proven to impact brain function. And just to give you a little tidbit on this, they did a study where they tested medical interns, and they tested them after working a 24-hour work shift, and they tested those who worked a shorter work shift. And they found that their performance for the person who was working a 24-hour or more work shift, their performance was equal to that of a person with a 0.1% blood alcohol content. So it kind of shows up in this way that is almost like an alcohol impairment. So that's how important it is that we get that good sleep. They also recognize that 36% more medical errors were made than in the group that had the proper amount of sleep and had a schedule that was more fluctuating and allowed for better sleeping in consistent hour blocks. In contrast, good sleep has been shown to improve our problem-solving skills. Obviously, it helps us to be alert and be prepared for things that may come at us. They help with memory performance, and this is, again, in children and adults. So it's critical that from very young ages that we're teaching our children to get a proper night's sleep, we're equipping them to do so, and that as adults that continues. And there are different sleep requirements for children. They definitely require way more than the 7 to 8 that's required for adults. You'd be looking more like a 10-hour a night sleep minimum for a child. Athletic performance, again, for some of these same reasons. In studies on basketball players, they found that proper sleep significantly improved their speed, their accuracy, their reaction times. And again, some of this goes with that brain function. We're not quite as on top of those reactions if we're tired and we're not paying close attention, or we're distracted because our brain is kind of nodding off, so to speak. Less sleep duration has also been associated with poor exercise performance and functional limitations in older women specifically. So lower sleep can impact that group of women in their ability to perform athletically. In 2,800 women that were studied, they found that poor sleep was linked to slower walking, lower grip strength, just kind of holding on to things where you might lose your grip and drop things, and also a greater difficulty in performing independent activities that we just need to do for life. So athletic performance can definitely be impacted by improper sleep habits. Again, another health marker that's impacted negatively by poor sleep, it can increase your risk of heart disease and stroke. And this is based on a review of 15 different studies that looked at all different facets of this, but they found across the board that people who didn't get enough sleep were at a far greater risk of heart disease and stroke than those who sleep 7 to 8 hours a night. This may be connected to inflammation, which we're going to talk about which I'll talk about in a minute. But some of those can be provoked by inflammatory issues, and so inflammation is unfortunately one of the negative outcomes of poor sleep. And they found, moving on to the next point of that inflammation, that sleep loss was really known to activate this unwanted inflammation and cell damage. So it's been linked to long-term inflammation of the digestive tract and throughout the body. Because it does impact that digestive tract, it can increase risk of relapse for certain inflammatory diseases. There's been a lot connecting poor sleep to recurrences of Crohn's disease, which of course is inflammation in that gut area. So that's another poor outcome that can come from not getting the right amount of sleep. Again, another chronic disease that's impacted negatively by poor sleep would be glucose metabolism and diabetes, specifically type 2 diabetes. And again, this goes back to those hormones, the hormones that help us deal with the insulin and the blood sugars that are in our system. Sleep deprivation can actually cause prediabetes in healthy adults in as little as 6 days. So if you are not getting great sleep for a couple weeks at a time, you may unknowingly be putting yourself into a pre-diabetic space because your body is not able to handle the blood sugar and insulin sensitivity and keep those things in balance and prevent those types of diabetic reactions. So there are several studies on this particular topic linking short sleep duration to type 2 diabetes. So as much as we can get that healing restorative sleep that we'll talk about soon, the better, because especially when it's impacting some of these chronic conditions and even kind of being the impetus to get them going in a body. Depression, I don't know about you, but if I don't get enough sleep, I'm a pretty cranky person in the morning. And so if you think about that on a chronic level where you're not getting enough sleep for a certain number of days in a row, or even just long term, you just have insomnia and different trouble sleeping, you're not going to feel fresh. You're not going to feel awesome. You're not going to be excited to go out in the world and do the things you need to do. And that's going to take a toll on your emotional health. And that's a natural outcome of overtiredness. Nobody's happy and excited about life when they're tired or exhausted. And over time, emotional distress can lead to depression, and that is one of the most common disorders that's associated with lack of sleep. specifically insomnia. And again, you've got issues out there in the world right now like sleep apnea or obstructive sleep apnea, and that's also because these folks are not getting the proper sleep. They're not getting that healing restorative sleep that you need to balance out your hormones, to get you waking up not in a stressed out state, but to have those hormones somewhat balanced out, so you're starting the day fresh. You're feeling good about life. You're kind of waking up, maybe not jumping out of bed and feeling like you could run a marathon, but you're feeling overall pretty healthy and well because you're getting that restorative sleep. So depression and emotional health issues are serious underlying conditions that can result from poor sleep. Immune function. A 2-week study found that those who slept less than 7 hours a night were almost 3 times as likely to develop a cold than those who slept 8 hours or more. So if you're tired, your body is not going to be equipped to fight off all the germs and the viruses and the things that are flying around or on surfaces that we touch in the world. So as much as we can, gird up that immune function by getting that healing restorative sleep, the better. It's always important. This is why we want our kids to rest, and we tell them that they're going to get sick if they don't get a good night's sleep, or that's because the immune system will be lower. It will be compromised a little bit, and when you're faced with those invaders that can make you sick, your body's not going to have the strength it needs to fight them off. So when we talk about that healing restorative sleep, we're talking about that REM sleep, which is the rapid eye movement phase. And so after a few hours of getting into a good night's sleep, your body moves into this REM state. And that's where those hormones tend to balance out. Because if they're not balancing out, then you're waking up with all these crazy out of balance emotions and hormones that are going to set you up for a miserable day, whether it's emotionally, whether it's with food choices that you're making. But sleep is essential for balancing out the hormones, especially some of the stress hormones that we deal with, cortisol and adrenaline, as we go through the day and are dealing with stressors that we're going to face them. We can't live in a bubble. We've got stuff going on all around us all the time. So as much as we can reduce those stressors, the better. But if we can't, then getting that good night's sleep at the end of the day is at least going to give your body a good fighting chance to get them back somewhat in alignment. And it may not be 100% perfect every single night, but it'll give you an opportunity to get them back into alignment and wake up feeling a little bit fresher and able to have that room to move, because you're going to face more stressors tomorrow. You just don't want to wake up completely out of balance. You got to give yourself room to handle the stressors that will come. But those cortisol and adrenaline hormones being out of balance, those can cause some of these insomnia type things that we're seeing, and people having trouble sleeping, going to sleep, falling asleep. Sometimes they're laying awake with worry about things that they've got going on. So we get it. There are a lot of sleep issues in the world. I know this month specifically, we're sharing a lot about how to overcome some of those. On our next Wellness Wednesday Live, we're going to be talking with a lifestyle blogger who's from Caribou originally, and she's going to talk a little bit about bedtime routines and what they can do to help you with your sleep. So we're going to look forward to that. We'll be definitely sharing some more information on Healthy You all throughout the month here as we continue on this theme. We've got this relaxation body scan event coming up on the 19th of March. So that's something that if you want to try it out from the comfort of your own home, just shoot us a message and we can get you information on how to join that little workshop. But it'll be a really relaxing time. You can do it right from the comfort of your own home. You don't have to go out, and just really develop some skills that can help set you on the right track toward better sleep. Because as we can see, there are so many things, and this is not even an exhaustive list. This is just a short little list of just a handful of the things that could be negatively impacted by sleep. And it really is a foundational part of good health and wellness overall. This is where our body does its best healing, when we're not taxing it, walking around in the world, coming to work every day. Not that work is a bad thing, but, my body's not necessarily healing here. This is not a healing environment. It's a place where I might encounter a little more stress, or I might be dealing with some more of those immune compromising germs and things because I'm around other people. So obviously when we're out and about in the world, we're not getting this restoration that we can get from a good night's sleep at home. So I hope you'll stay tuned and look forward to more about healthy sleep and help find some tips that might help you get the best possible sleep that you can to ensure some good health and wellness for you in the future. Thanks so much, and join us again for our next Wellness Live.